Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live Q&A. My name is Cedric Marin. I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer, and today I'll be taking your questions live about how to immigrate to Canada. So this includes study permits, work permits, express entry, permanent residence that's not express entry, right? So the Atlantic Immigration Program, Rural and Northern Immigration Program as well, or PNP-based applications that are not um, express entry based. So listen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I usually do these every Thursday at around this time. Mark does them on Wednesdays, and Alicia and Mark do them a few hours after me on Thursdays. So let's get right to it, and let's talk about express entry. So express entry, as a lot of you may know, you come to Canada with permanent residence. So depending on your age, your education, the amount of work that you have, you can come to Canada and land with express entry. And the way it works is every couple of weeks, they take the highest ranking individuals. And over the last few months, the score has really come down from the top scores during COVID. And what's most interesting here is you can see that there was some glitches with the tier system. Those were fixed. And now we expected a no program specific, but what do we see here? A PNP draw. So we did not necessarily expect this. Non-program specific draws were happening over the last few months. This being said, I would not get too worried about the whole situation, and I think the reason why is because before COVID, IRCC was actually doing something like this. And yeah, Mohammed has an excellent question. Says, do you think there might be a CEC draw today? So Canadian Experience Class draw. So let's hope so, right? Let's really hope that there's a Canadian Experience Class. So if that's the case, if there is a Canadian Experience Class draw today, I think it's going to be the lowest in a while, the lowest score in a while, because they've already scooped up, right, all those high-ranking individuals with PNPs. The score has been coming down, right? And so I think if I had to take a guess, I think we could see it somewhere in the 480s, possibly in the 470s if it's just Canadian Experience Class based. And listen, we can go take a look back. Maybe all the way back is too much, but let's go take a look here at before how they used to do them, right? So federal skilled trades, right? Once in a while, when they did do PNP only draws, they were usually at or around the same time as a CSC draw or a program specific draw, right? So you can see here back before COVID, they were doing no program specific, and then going into PNP, federal skilled trades, and then back to no program specified. And once in a while as well, we'll see the Canadian Experience Class. I'm trying to find us an example here. Right now we see FST with PNPs, and we can also see historically sometimes they actually didn't, right? They just waited another 2 weeks, and then they went ahead and did a no program specified draw. So, there is another. Is there anything else here? No, there isn't. So listen, we don't know. We can't forecast the future. One thing we do know for sure is that the timing of the draws and how many people they take really depends on the immigration levels plan. So every year the minister goes and puts a certain number of individuals that they want to immigrate to Canada under various streams, right? So federal skilled worker stream, CEC, express entry, PNP, right? And they try to hit those number withdrawals, but there's no formal way that IRCC needs to actually do their draws. So in other words, it could be, right, they could go and pick up 10,000 people a day if they wanted, or they could do, every 2 weeks do 5,000, right? And we've seen this, right? They've slowly ramped up the actual number of draws. So we don't know what's going to happen. I think a lot of people are saying CEC today. I really hope so. If not, right, we're talking about possibly another 2 weeks. So yeah, Mohammed, great question. We can only time can tell. I wish I could predict the future, but right now I hope so that more people do qualify. And we do know that they're taking more and more people this year, so it's going to be really interesting to follow. And one thing I talk a lot about in videos, in consults, it's the completeness check. And I can't emphasize this enough. If you are currently an express entry applicant, if you have an express entry profile, that's the correct way to put it. Or if you got your invitation to apply and you're applying to express entry, this is like the gold document. This is so important. and you can start reading this before. And the reason for it is, the reason you should read this before is because it talks about translation of documents, right? What needs to be translated, what documents, translation of copies, and how would you include this into your translation package, right? So a lot of people, for example, that I've seen consults will not have the original document stamped, or they're not going to have an affidavit. They're just going to have a translation. But it's really key to have the original stamped or referred into an affidavit. Mandatory documents, again, super, super important. So the medical exam that's gonna come, they want you to do it as closely as possible to when you submit your application, right? So once you get your ITA, getting on top of the medical examination is definitely recommended, right? Police certificates, right? So sometimes it can take a few months to get a police certificate, right? Or you might need specific documents, like you need your birth certificate and you can't find it, or it's back home and you have to get someone to go scan it and get the police certificate for you. So take a look at that. Like, it's very, very specific, lots of specific rules. And the reason that I see, so I really focused on rejected applications, and the number one reason for rejected applications is the proof of work experience. And they have these documents are mandatory. So when you create your Express Entry profile, right, there's going to be a slot to upload a reference letter, but it doesn't tell you like really what needs to go into it. Here, this is what this is what really needs to go inside of the letter. So this is super important. Number of hours worked per week, main duties, annual salary, and this is something that we obviously check with our clients when we work on Express Entry applications. So super, super important. Completeness check. Definitely take a look at that. All right, guys. Well, listen. Feel free to ask your questions. I did schedule this a little bit later than I would have liked. Usually, I like to put them at least a day or two up. With this being said, I think we're gonna have a smaller group today because it really wasn't advertised. I had a little bit more time today and I put it up. So let's get to the questions. So Pashran Sen says, does part-time master degree hold equal Canadian equivalency in CRS points as a regular master degree in the context of FSW? Thank you so much. Yeah, so let's go take a look at this, Pashran. So when we take a look at when we have questions about, what counts for points in CRS score, I think we should really start on the eligibility. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, do you have the 67 points? Are you eligible for the federal skilled worker stream? So when we go here to education, you're going to see it's just going to talk about having a high school diploma, but as we know, it's you need a master's or even a bachelor's to have good points, and you need an ECA, right? So get on top of your ECA. I don't necessarily recommend one over another, but some of them do take a few months. So definitely do get an ECA. Get started on that right now if you're interested to immigrate into Canada. So assuming you have your ECA, assuming you have your master's and you meet the other eligibility requirements, now we're going to flip over to the ministerial instructions respecting Express Entry. And to answer your question, there's not going to be a difference between a full-time or part-time master when it comes to CRS points, right? So full-time, part-time could impact, for example, your study permit inside Canada, could impact your post-graduation work permit, it could impact other programs. But when we're talking strictly about CRS points for education, right, there's no requirement for the education to be, the level of education to be full-time as opposed to part-time and whatnot. And this is going to be on your ECA. Your ECA is going to tell you the equivalency of your program, right? So let's take a look here. So you're going to get, for your master's degree, right? So foreign national has a university level credential at a master's degree level, 135 points. And usually at the bottom here, they have some more specific rules, right? So here we're talking about just the highest level of education. And we have other rules here. So credentials must be from Canadian Educational Credentials or have an ECA. We've already talked about this. The maximum points that you can get, all right? And then there's a 5-year duration to your ECA, but you're going to see there's no other requirements. There's no requirements on part-time or full-time, but your ECA is going to clearly tell you, right, what is the equivalent in Canada? How many years is this master's really a master's in Canada, right? Or is it equivalent to a bachelor's degree? Or, I mean, I don't know if that could be the case, or even a PhD, but anyways, your ECA is going to tell you, but no, for CRS points, there's going to be no difference between the full-time or part-time status. If you're inside Canada studying, it could impact your study permit, Could impact your ability to work inside Canada without a work permit if you're a student, right? Because you have to be a full-time student. It could also impact your eligibility for the post-graduation work permit. So for I know I'm going above and beyond here, but I just want to make sure that the information I'm giving is very, very accurate. All right, Harman, let's get right to your question. IELTS 6.5 plus 2, 2015, non-medical. This is your degree, 50s diploma in mechanical engineering. You now increased your. I'm a little bit confused here, Harman. Feel free to re-ask your question. First refusal on inconsistent stay from VCC College, postgraduate diploma. Okay, so you've been rejected a study permit, it looks like it. Listen, you can look at whether or not reapplying is an option, right? So if you can add more information on your stay inside Canada, right? So add more information about your assets, your property, why you're going to return to your country. Or you could also look at a judicial review, right? So if you have an immigration refusal within 15 days if you're in for an application inside Canada, or 60 days for outside Canada, take a look here on legal help and look at judicial reviews. Judicial reviews here is cases where you may have been refused, or you have been refused an application and you want to go to court. You want to argue that IRCC made a mistake and you want them to overturn your application. So outside Canada, right, you're going to have 60 days to make a judicial review. This this blog really goes into details about judicial reviews, legal fees, what to expect, how it works. But you might want to consider making a judicial review for your study permit. In some cases, it might be the only option. All right, Gab. And sorry, I just want to mention, sorry, Harman, before we continue, on our website here, we actually have a whole section about blogs. I know my colleague Chanel and Alicia have a lot of blogs about study permits. So who can work, how to increase your chance in studying inside Canada. If you keep scrolling down, what you need to do now for the intake for 2023 intakes, right? And we have a lot of other content about study permits and blogs. So take a look at our website, specifically under blog, where we have really a lot of content for you, especially for students, right, where you can look. All right, Gab says post-graduation work permit expired October 2022 and restoration of status, and PGWP still pending. I only have interim work authorization that expires in May 2023. Am I eligible for spousal sponsorship? All right, so can you be sponsored as a spouse? Now, again, I only give legal information. I don't give legal advice on live Q&As. If you want legal advice, head on over to our website and please book a consult with me. I'd love to talk to you about how to submit this. But let's take a look at it. So there's obviously like becoming a sponsor, who can sponsor you. There's criminality and whatnot. There's various other topics. So, but just focusing on your question about can you, right, as the principal applicant, be sponsored? So you definitely need to have a status inside Canada. And right now you would be with the restoration of status, right? You're out of status, but but you can remain inside Canada because you applied to restore your status. So here, lives with you, has a valid temporary resident status in Canada, right? So here we're talking about having a permit, right, to be inside Canada, or is exempt from needing a status under a public policy. So if you applied after your post-graduation work permit expired, you would have been out of status, and you're currently applying for restoration. So really, I always recommend to follow the IRCC instructions by the letter. Right now, it's talking about having a valid status inside Canada. Is there maybe 5 out of 20 officers who would agree that being in restoration is okay? Maybe, but really the instructions here tell us, say, no, you need a valid temporary resident status, or you need to be exempt from one, right? So this is for the Canada, which is different, right? The family class, but inside Canada, and I don't know your situation. I don't know if you qualify for a temporary public policy. I know you applied under the 18-month, but really would have to look at this in more detail to give you really legal advice tailored to you. Here are the instructions, and if you want legal advice, please do reach out. Frederick says, watching from Kenya. Thank you. I've heard fantastic things about Kenya, in particular, the really, really amazing people and a beautiful landscape. And before COVID, I was actually planning a trip, a little safari through Kenya and Tanzania, but we'll have to push that off to maybe a couple of years from now. But listen, I've only heard fantastic things about Kenya. It's possible to get a job placement having graduated with MCS project management in Kenya. Yeah, so you can, right? So to apply for a job permit, you need, so to work inside Canada as a foreign national, you need a work permit. And to get a work permit, you're either going to need what's called a labor market impact assessment, so LMIA, or you're going to be exempt from an LMIA. So when we're talking about LMIA exemptions, we can go over here and take a look. So LMIA exemption, so the most common one, the post-graduation work permit, is an LMIA exemption type work permit. And there's other types. So we have public policies, international agreements, and in particular, right, so if you're under the Canadian-USA Mexico agreement as a trader, you could qualify for a work permit inside Canada, or if you meet one of the Chile, if you're an investor or professional and whatnot, you can take a look at this page and read more about the eligibility requirements. So the question I have for you is, can your company transfer you to Canada? Can you do an intra-company transfer to Canada? Are you eligible for a significant benefit work permit with an employer inside Canada? But work permits are typically going to revolve around you and a company inside Canada. So typically you can't just apply for a work permit to come to Canada and work. You're going to have to get an LMIA. It's going to be a valid LMIA that a company is going to start the process, or right, a company is going to want to transfer you, or a company is going to give you a job offer, which you can later use with an LMIA or without an LMIA to come to Canada. So you can't just come to Canada and request a work permit. There's usually going to have to be some sort of job offer or transfer taking place. So to answer your question, yeah, it's possible, right, that you can come to Canada with your education and your work experience. Now, you probably have to find a job inside Canada and find an employer who's willing to do an LMIA. But happy to chat more in detail, but really it's going to be your employer that's going to start the process to help you get a work permit inside Canada. Nice to see you, Lima. Athena says, while choosing co-op undergrad program, what do you keep in mind to have successful post-graduation work permit? Well, good question. So it's actually a really good question. What to keep in mind? Let's head on over here. So the first thing is that you need to, this is a loaded question. Don't violate any rules of your study permit, co-op work permit. And I know it sounds obvious, but your co-op program cannot be more than 50% of your program studies. Don't work without authorization, right? So don't work more, or don't work for another company or whatnot that's not named, or a company that can't hire temporary foreign nationals. But and obviously go to a program study that's eligible for post-graduation work permit. Now, it's a good question. We can read about ineligible applicants, a lot of ineligible stuff that could make you ineligible. But typically, I think just as general information, like comply with all the rules of your study permit, right? Don't continue full-time studies, right? If you take any leave of absence, it has to be approved by your DLI, right? Make sure your DLI is an institution for post-graduation work permits. There's some rules also about when your program comes to an end, about when you can continue working, when you can't continue working, and those would be just general tips. But take a look at this page. I really recommend this page. It's called the Operational Instructions and Guidelines, Temporary Resident Students. And here it's going to have tons of information about eligible programs, institutions, do's and don'ts, what to look out for. This is really what I rely on when helping clients with post-graduation work permits. And eligible applicants, flight school graduates. So there we go. Take a look at that. I think it's just in a few moments, to be able to, in a few moments, trying to give you as much helpful information here. Abdul Rahman Mohammed says, when I try to submit my documents on the portal, it is not responding. The system keeps going down. Yeah, the system is, if it goes inactive for more than a few moments, it will sign you out and need to sign in again. So if you can prepare all your documents and then just go in and just upload them all, that's the easiest way to do it. But try clearing your browser, getting maybe installing a new browser. Try having everything ready so when you log in, you just upload your documents. And this is something that everyone faces. The programs are really good and they've come a really long way, but in terms of when it logs you out for security and whatnot, it's very common, these issues that you're having with the portal itself. What happens after medical is passed after submitting acknowledgement of receipt? And so typically, right, we go through eligibility, they're going to go through medicals, and then they're going to go through background checks. So you're probably right on your background checks. And most people, I think it takes between 30 to 60 days for background checks. AK says, hey, Cedric, how are you doing? I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing really good. Really, really busy. And I think I have a little bit more time, a little bit of a breather today and tomorrow. So I welcome it. But I've been really, really busy, with Express Entry opening. And, I'd love to speak to you all, to help you all. So things are really good. Let's take a look here. Just want to ask if I got PGWP refusal under public policy launched in August 2022. I've already filed a reconsideration last week. Just want to know how long I will have to wait. So keep in mind that you can also do a judicial review. You're going to have 15 to file inside Canada, and just starting the process could be the best thing to maintain your right to the judicial review. I had a TR to PR refusal, PGWP refusal, where I help clients write reconsideration requests, and it's really, I have a whole blog on our website, but I think it usually takes anywhere between 2 weeks to 2 months, and we'll have some pending, right? So I'm not successful with every reconsideration request. Sometimes you file some and you know that it's not the strongest, and those are still pending. So typically they're not going to refuse the reconsideration or send you like a refusal letter for the reconsideration request. But I think about 2 weeks to 2 months is reasonable. These are being processed out of Edmonton. And I know that, some decisions that we receive for refusal are like, you need an LMIA. And we're like, what? We don't need an LMIA, or just some other weird reasons for refusal that really don't make any sense. So they're obviously responsive, right, to these mistakes. Fingers crossed it works for you. But really, judicial reviews is a much more formal process where you're going to court, we're dealing with another lawyer, we're litigating your case, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. But good luck. I really wish you good luck. Please book a consult if you like. We can talk more about immigration requests, talk about judicial review. But yeah, 2 weeks to 2 months for Edmonton for this specific program, I think is what we expect. Applying for U.S. immigrant visa. Oh no, it's doing this where it's all blurry again. That's not fun. Does this fix it? That does not fix it. Hold up here. I specifically purchased a new webcam. There we go. I purchased a new webcam specifically for, there we go. Still have these issues. Anyways, applying for U.S. immigrant visa by submitting Department of State form, then not finalizing process, not attending interview, not a refusal, sure, but info share biographic will be fine. So Canada and the United States have information sharing agreements, and which means that they can kind of look to see when you entered or left the United States, past refusals and whatnot. This being said, if you're not sure if you've had a refusal, if you're not sure if it's abandoned or withdrawn or incomplete or returned, read the question very carefully in the IRCC forms, and there's no problem, right? Just disclosing and say, listen, I applied, I didn't attend the interview, I never received anything, I don't know if I was refused, but I'm declaring it just in case, right? Being very, very cautious and providing as much information for visa officers to make good decisions, I think is really, really key. So if you're not sure, that's what I would recommend, is really just explain very, very clearly, explain very clearly the situation, provide additional documents if you want, and just answer yes to the question of previously reviews and application, right? We want to avoid misrepresentations. And you'll see here on our website, we have a whole section that I just finished writing on legal help about misrepresentation, right? So what is a misrepresentation? Well, this is it. So misleading information on immigration forms, withholding information, right? Super important, to be honest. So take a look here. Tons of information about about what is a misrepresentation, how to avoid it. I have a whole section here about actual tips, right? So how to avoid a misrepresentation. So be truthful, don't hide any information. Most importantly, information sharing agreements. Look at that. I've already talked about this. And then letters of explanation, right? If you're not sure, just explain it in a letter of explanation. Provide supporting documents. Take a look at this. I really, really recommend this. All right. Lima says, submitted post-graduation extension public policy on October, did not receive approval yet. Is this normal? Yeah, I think most people are still waiting. I think the processing time is still about 167 days for work permits. They said they're going to get everything done by May, so fingers crossed that's the case. Some people start to refuse to receive them. Some people have already been refused. A lot of people are still pending. All right, Peter Davidson said, hi, Cedric. CRS 457, primary knock is authors and writers. I know BC is looking for them. Is it worth applying through their PNP rather than waiting for what will be a long time in Express Entry? Yeah, so I mean, my first, and again, the first question for you is going to be, take a look at the CRS points, criteria where they break it down. There are a lot of people, I wouldn't say forget. Oh no, I had it, the ministerial instructions here. A great way to improve Express Entry scores. What are we doing here? A great way to improve Express Entry scores might be to improve your language scores. And the reason for it is your transferability points. Some of them require, talk about a CLB having a 9, a level 9, right? So you get bonus points, right? If you only have one or more area assessed out of 9, everything else is a 7, you get 13 points. But as we go up, this is for the combination of education official language. But if you have everything at a 9, you can go from 25 points to 50 points. So take a look at your CLB to IELTS to CLB, CELPIP to CLB, and look at what you could do to get everything in a 9. Easier said than done, but in your case, Peter, the big difference between going through getting permanent residence through Express Entry or not could really well be just improving your language score. Studying really hard for 3 months, getting that 9 in writing and speaking, let's say, to bump you up to have everything as a 9, to get bonus points, get other bonus points as well based on your language. So take a look here. So if you have a 7 higher with one assessed at a 9, 25 points. Once everything is assessed at a 9 plus 3 years of foreign work experience, then we get into that juicy 25 points. So first question for you, do you have CLB 9 and everything? If not, definitely take a look at that, Peter, because this could really be your golden ticket to permanent residency inside Canada. All right, now to actually answer your question, let's go take a look here at the BC PNP, right? So PNPs, you have express entry based and you have non-express entry based. And take a look here to see BC PNP Tech. We have BC Care Economy, personal support workers, people who work in healthcare. We have economic mobility pathway. This is for refugees, skilled refugees. We have, let's keep going down. We have the interpreter migration. But what we want to get to is the actual BC other priority occupations, childhood programs, tech. There's a page here that they come to you and they actually tell you there's like a supporting documents page. Let's just try to find it here. The supporting documents, BC PNP documents. So let's go back here. There we go. The program guide. This is where it's going to pop up, and then we can take a look here at the different streams. And the reason we're looking at these streams is to see whether or not you're eligible for it, right? So skilled worker stream, you need to meet the general requirements in a skilled job. I think as a author and writer, you might have the challenge of proving your NOC code in terms of the amount of hours. Typically people have pay stubs, the amount of hours, but how can you prove the amount of hours? And again, it might not be something important for you. You might work for like an agency that has the hours, but if if you're really a writer and author, like you have to show the hours and show the pay, right? Which is because the work experience has to be paid. You're also going to need some sort of link to BC usually, so have some sort of connection to BC to be invited for PNP. So listen, I'm just going to refer you to this document. There's different PNP programs. It could make sense applying for a PNP, but PNPs are also competitive, right? It doesn't mean just because you qualify for a PNP, you're going to get it. Express Entry is much more like that with the point system. But do take a look here to see whether or not your occupation is in demand, whether or not you can prove that you've done this occupation for the set amount of hours that it's been paid, and definitely go for there. But yeah, check your language, because if you can get that CLB up to a 9, get those transferability points, that'd be fantastic. Sound is cutting. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. A little bit of technical issues with the sound. I'll take a look at the video after. Lima, thanks for letting me know to take a look about how we can improve this. I thought I made some changes, but I obviously haven't fixed it. I am an electrician. Do you have any news about Express Entry FST? We don't. But as we saw at the beginning of the video, we saw at the rounds of invitation before COVID, right? Some of them before COVID, the way they would do them is they would do like one PNP and the next day FST, Federal School Trade. So maybe today, fingers crossed. We can see here in the distribution pools, this was yesterday. This is typically before the draws. We can see that these 600 individuals were taken. So now if we think they're going to take another 5,500, they're going to take all these individuals, right? And they're going to take about half of these. And hopefully, yeah, we haven't had a federal skill trade in a while. So maybe today, Frank. But listen, this is just based on past Express Entry. It's not a promise that there's going to be one today. I'm not aware of any super important FST announcement, but let's hope for that. All right, next question. Verna says, "Hi Cedric, I applied to study permit on December 8. Took biometrics on 15. I did my medical. Well, congrats, Verna." Another question. I applied for study permit intake. Then when will my medicals be requested? I did an upfront on January 5. So if you did an upfront medical, and the doctor is working with e-medical, they're going to be sent directly to IRCC for the medical. So the upfront medical is the same as like the medical itself, assuming that they're not expired and you did the proper medical. So looks like your application is just in processing, Verna, and typically like every step takes anywhere between 30 to 60 days. Now, this depends for your country, where you applied from and whatnot. I think the general page on IRCC webpage is like 9 weeks, but we know that some visa offices are closer to 5 and some are so 9 weeks. So if you're thinking about applying to Canada, make sure that you start, your study permit right now, right? Get your letter of acceptance, your GIC, proof of funds, and apply, because you could start to get close to the deadline based on the 5, 9, or 13 weeks. Yep, Abdul Raham, I think I answered this earlier. The system is not great in some aspects. It does kick you out after a few minutes. You have to sign in, and you gotta click around. If you sign in and you just take 20 minutes to start scanning documents and clicking around, it's going to come back and it's not going to work. If you have issues, like serious technical issues, feel free to do a web form to IRCC. Generic nickname. Hello, Cedric. Collecting bank statements from banks abroad and translating them takes time. Yeah, it really does, right? I think I talked about this earlier. Completeness check documents, like we start with our Express Entry clients. We're in a consult. We're talking about getting the documents. We do an onboarding call, right? Usually about a day or two after, where we meet to get even more information. And like the first thing we do is like, all right, where are we with our documents? Because this is the biggest barrier to Express Entry. Let's say barrier to Express Entry, but that's the biggest thing in Express Entry. What you put in anyone can fill out the profile, but do we have the right supporting documents? Is your application properly completed? And kind of a nice plug just to go back to our website here, Health Immigration Law. Go here, book an immigration consult, click here to speak with a lawyer, and then you can scroll down here and book a consult with me if this interests you. I do telework abroad. So if you are abroad and you're interested in talking to someone that's like on your time zone, a little bit more convenient, you can go ahead here and book a consult. You can see my availability here at the bottom. It's not going all the way down, but I am taking Thursday and Friday off. This being said, tomorrow or even Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm available to meet and talk about how we can help you prepare your Express Entry profile. All right, back to Express Entry. Back to the question that was asked to me a little bit earlier. All right, is there some sort of expiry date on bank statements? A month? After which time I have to get a new one? It's a good question. So if you go take a look at the completeness check, we talk about proof of funds. It's going to talk about the average balance for the past 6 months, right? So yeah, you definitely don't want to submit bank statements that are old, that are not within the past 6 months. There's no hard rule saying, that the bank statements can't be more than 15 days old or 30 days old. There's definitely no hard rule like that, but I think I would try to get them as close as possible to when you're going to apply. Maybe get all the other documents ready and then get your proof of funds and submit it within a few days. I typically, with our Express Entry clients, I think 5 to 10 days is really the most that we submit for this information, and make sure obviously that you have really 6 months, right? Not 5 months and 2 weeks, not 5 months and 3 weeks. You really have 6 months. So we're going to talk maybe about 6.5 months, right? But yeah, there's no hard rule saying when these expire, but they do want them in the past 6 months, and they have to be fresh, right? They have to be fresh bank statements showing that, yeah, you got the money. They might even, if your application is in processing, they might actually ask for updated ones, right? So typically, we know during COVID, that was their favorite request to do, is telling you to get new medicals and getting updated proof of funds. So it's always possible. So Gab, Gab, I think we have another question from you here. It says, last September, applied PGWP 18-month extension policy, but forgot to include a scanned copy of my post-graduation document. I still submitted through IRC web form. Thanks. Absolutely, I would do it like right now. Like right now, get on it. You might not know this as well, but you also had to include a letter saying that you were applying under the PGWP 18-month extension, saying clearly in that letter that that's what you were applying for, to allow for proper triage within IRCC. There's some more specific rules as well under details of intended stay inside Canada, about putting PGWP 8PP 18 months, like some specific stuff you have to put in. So if you haven't done that, do it. And interestingly, we had here over blog, we have a TR to PR blog. And this was an interesting case. So I know you're asking about the post-graduation work permit, but for the TR to PR, someone did that. They applied, they updated the application, and then IRCC was like, hey, you can't update your application by web form, rejected. And the federal court said, hey, wait a moment, absolutely not. We can read this in detail, but it was a temporary public policy, and the federal court judge said, no, you need to look at this in detail. You need to actually look to see what is, look in detail, and you either need to consider the documents as part of the application, or IRCC had to explain why they can't be treated as part of the explanation. So super, super important. So are they going to accept it? Are they going to say, no, you have to provide this at the beginning? Who would 100% submit it as soon as possible, update your application, get those documents in there. It's closed. If you could reapply, I would just say reapply, but you can't. It's closed. So yeah, that's what I would do. Who knows what's going to happen? But again, 15 days. If you're rejected, 15 days inside Canada, we'll go to federal court. We'll file a judicial review. We'll hopefully get it overturned in court. Is PR card processing time really 6 months? Yeah, it is. And it's interesting, right? Because they recently came out with this portal. They recently did. You had to apply before you had to come to Canada before, submit an application, apply, and like, okay, no problem, we'll do it automatic now. And now it's taken like 6 months instead of like a month or two. So let's see what happens. Canada was having issues with passports after COVID. Everyone wanted passports to leave Canada. And then there was a huge delay. And then now it came back, from what I understand, to really good processing time. So fingers crossed that this wave of PR cards, gets fixed by IRCC. That would be great. Peter Davidson says, thanks, Cedric, much appreciated. My pleasure, Peter. I think you had a little bit of a tough question, if I remember. Yeah, about the BCPNP and whatnot. Listen, take a look at your language test. See if you can improve your language. Probably the best thing to do. Decrease to 42 days. Just checked. Oh, okay. All right. I mean, I have, I think, a handful of clients waiting for more than that. But no, I'm waiting for my first PR card. Wow, 42 days. Okay, well, let's see what happens. I mean, this is fantastic. Hopefully let's get some more good news here. Let's see what's going on with work permits. Oh no, it came down by about 3 days. What about economic immigration status? These were updated yesterday, so this is fresh data here. This is Quebec. I wanted to go 31 months. Yikes. We know that this is in part because a lot of applications received during COVID are still pending. New applications are being processed quicker. We've seen some in the last maybe 3 or 4 months in processing times for both CC and FSW. But I mean, processing times are going down, and can only hope that they continue to go down. Good morning, Cedric. Well, good morning, Bano. So you're having some challenges with PR. Finding the right knock code as I'm in a project coordinator role. Do you have any advice on navigating this? I don't have any advice, but I definitely have legal information about it. So let's take a look here about how, I would go in a consultation to determine a knock code, right? So it obviously depends on what you do. Your title is somewhat helpful, but we've seen titles that really don't make any sense for the knock codes. But yeah, go onto this website here. We're going to change to 2021, and here we're going to type in, let's see, we'll go software developer. And to be honest, like this is, sometimes we get people who hire us to do a whole Express Entry application together. So people hire us and say, listen, I want you to help me and give me advice on the specific knock code. Here's my reference letter. Here's what I do. So happy to take a look. But so typically, right, I would start by searching the job title. And then here we're going to look at, well, here there's only one, sales. So take a look at sales. We're going to have a lot of knock codes, right? So the first thing you need to know is that the tier 0 are going to be like usually management senior level. And then when we talk about the ones, we're talking about management or university degree. And then we talk about the 2s, which is usually college, training, and whatnot. So here we have the tier code in the middle that's going to help us determine if it meets the requirements for Express Entry, right? So let's just say that we're going to take a look at this one here. And so here's the knock code, and here is the lead statement. So they don't say it, but this is what's called the lead statement. So make sure that you meet the lead statement. If, for example, this one's pretty broad, right? It covers a lot of agencies and museum galleries, cultural, or you could be self-employed. But if here it said, for example, they work for government, right? The government auditor, well, you have to work for the government. And you need to meet the lead statement. It's not like a if, but like if it says you manage people, you have to manage people. You can't call yourself a manager, right? In some knocks, right? They really require you to manage people. So make sure you meet the lead statement. If I'm doing sales, right? I just do sales, no advertising, marketing, or public relations. Guess what? I don't meet this knock. Lead statement super important. All right. Job titles, they're not important for Express Entry, meaning that the ministerial instructions only talk about the lead statement and the main duties. But it could be helpful, right, to look and see whether or not your title kind of makes sense. Let's get to the main duties. Ministerial instructions say you have to meet 75% of the main duties. So let's take a look here. So here we can count the amount of bullet points we have, and then we try to determine what is 75%. And then don't just copy paste this into a reference letter. It's not going to work. It's going to get rejected. What you have to do here is really elaborate. Let's talk about, okay, assess characteristics of products or services to be promoted to determine marketing. So what you could do is the first bullet point could be very similar. You can retake some of the language, if it's true, obviously, and you actually do it, right? To be assess characteristics of digital advertising, of legal services to promote lawyers who provide excellent, high quality legal services, right? So you would take it, you would modify it, keep some of the keywords, obviously, if it's true. So this is what we would look at. So right now, let's say that you meet 75%, you 100% meet the lead statement. Then you would go back to your employer, say, listen, I need a reference letter, hours worked, salary, main duties, lead statement. let's get on it, right? This is what you would this is what you would do, right? And we can do here at the bottom is you can look at the exclusions. You can look at similar ones, right? So you can open these similar ones here and we can take a look at it. So, okay, so we are a writer and author. And we can take a look here at what's called the hierarchy and structure. And this allows us to kind of navigate, right, all the different codes. So we kind of take a look here and say, so the previous one we had was what? 4,000. Yeah, so 11,202. So we take a look here at 11,202. And the reason why is that we might find other similar ones, right? So you might be more of a human resource manager or be into business management consulting, right? So that's the thing. So you might say, okay, well, I'm not in the professional occupations. Okay, I'm actually closer to financial and administrative support. And you know what I'm doing is actually closer to, insurance and related support workers. And you know what? Oh yeah, I'm doing more clerking and whatnot. Then you can view the group offer. And here we know the second number indicates the tier. So here we know this is a tier 4. This is not going to work for Express Entry, but this really helps you navigate, the different occupations and allows you to quickly pinpoint, jobs that are similar to that. So what I encourage you to do is start by your job title, look at a few knocks, then look at the hierarchy, look at similar knocks, evaluate the lead statement and main duties, and see which ones you meet the most of. And that's usually a good way to proceed. And if there's like the job title is inconsistent, you can have a letter of explanation and explain, right? So I have a client where the job title really doesn't match with the lead statement and main duties. So we can explain saying, this is a position that typically does ABC. I work on the front end. I work 100% on just the sales part. And, onboarded, they deal with somebody else that actually does, the legal work or whatnot, right? So that's not how we work, actually. We work one-on-one lawyers with clients. There's no middleman. You're going to meet with me in a consult. Almost all the emails are sent by me, other than contracts and payment details. And then we just meet one-on-one. I'm the one that does all the work. But anyways, take a look here, break this up, take a look at the different various knocks, sales and services, right, that are close. Try to see the lead statement and main duties, provide a letter of explanation, right? If there's anything that's not explained, ask your employer to write a reference letter that meets the details in the main duty. All right. I hope this helped. I know it wasn't for your specific knock. Please book a consult if you want to talk together about your reference letters and what are the knocks. And I think more than 50% of Express Entry applications in my practice are rejected because of work experience. So super, super, super important part. All right. Was banned from Canada because attachment that I failed to edit. It was the same attachment I attached during my first, second, third, and fourth application. I was told I'm guilty of misrepresentation. It was an honest mistake. I'm not even aware I had to attach a newly accomplished background declaration form. My bad. What are my options? Honest mistakes. It's tough. It's tough, man. How to overturn a mistake. Let's take a look here. So I wrote this, but I'm just showing you guys this. So really, if you're inside Canada, you're issued a removal order, right? Making a reconsideration request is probably not going to work. Reapplying probably not going to work either because you're now banned or you have the removal order. So if you're within 15 days from inside Canada, you could do a judicial review. But if we take a peek very quickly at the Immigration Refugee Protection Act, right? So the IRPA, as practitioners call it. Let's take a look here on the website. Inadmissibilities, we're going to go over to the next page. Go to section 40. So permanent resident or foreign nationals inadmissible for misrepresentation for directly or indirectly misrepresenting or withholding material facts relating to an irrelevant matter that induces or could induce an error in the administration of the act. All right, so it's very broad. Directly, indirectly, could induce or induces, right? So super, super broad. And I have some case law here about the federal court. Those are the fees page. Listen, we're upfront about our fees. All the fees are on our website. A lot of other people don't do that. We're upfront. Let's not waste time. Everything's there. Um, Legal aspects of misrepresentation. So take a look, Galdo, at here. Talk about case law. So we talk about innocent mistakes. We talk about general principles regarding misrepresentation, duty of candor to be honest, truthful, and whatnot. Technically, they could be right to have rejected it under misrepresentation. This being said, did you get a procedural fairness letter? What was the misrepresentation? Right? They would have had to ask you for an explanation, right? I would just suggest you book a consult, and again, 15 days for judicial reviews could be your only option, really. Or yeah, I mean, if you want to wait 5 years, if you want, but shortening the time, it's really a 5-year ban, right? Unless you go through the judicial review. I mean, again, just providing general legal information. It's quite serious. It's also going to impact your ability to immigrate to other countries. You're going to have to answer, yes, I have been found. I have had to leave, I had a removal order. So it's going to impact your other chances of immigrating to other countries. Anyways, hard to go into more details without knowing exactly what happened. You had a procedural fairness letter where you are today, but generally, no, you have to go through judicial review or wait 5 years. But it's still going to be really hard, right? They're not just going to welcome you back at the airport with open arms after issuing you a 5-year ban to Canada. Good day. My work permit application, medical exam set, last pass, January 16th. However, my husband and son has not updated yet. How long does this take? Is this normal? Yeah, Chloe, I mean, so work permit looks like, is this inside Canada, outside Canada? Listen, there's so many different visa offices. Is your husband inside Canada, but you're outside Canada? Like, where's this being dealt with? I mean, typically they all update together, but yeah, I mean, it's possible that you just passed, or your spouse, your husband's passed and yours hasn't. I wouldn't be too worried. Typically 30 to 60 days, right, for updates. So we're still in the good. You're still in that sweet spot. Lots of time. Is it normal? I don't know, but I think typically in my practice, 30 to 60 days for stuff to update. Hi, Cedric. Is US HB1 petition refusal considered as refusal for Canadian study permit application? Yeah, so I mean, I think anytime like withdrawn, refused, incomplete, I would disclose it. I would tick yes. Little box to explain. Box to explain, you could see letter of explanation. Letter of explanation, you could then clearly mention, say, here's what happened, right? I think it's a refusal. Here's the letter that I received. But yes, I mean, they are talking. I mean, it's worded very broadly to say any refusal, any country, right? That usually you would have to disclose this type of refusal. If you're not sure, I think I answered a little bit earlier in the live Q&A, but yes, if you're not sure, I would go ahead and still, disclose it, provide the documents, and tell them, right? Be as open as possible with IRCC. 470, any chance IT and admin profession? I don't think today. I don't think tomorrow. In 3 to 6 months, maybe. It's going to depend on how many new people join the pool. Pre-COVID, 470 gave you a chance of getting PRs. So it just might be a waiting game. But look earlier in this live Q&A about how you can improve your language scores, get those transferability points, and away you go. Lima, how do you evaluate foreign work experience? That's going to be in the ministerial instructions, right? So, and again, we talk about eligibility for federal skilled worker programs, so continuous 1 year full time. But then when we talk about CRS points, right? So if you have that 1 year full time, then you can add up other work experiences, like a year and a half somewhere else, 6 months somewhere else, to make up those times. But yeah, I'm just going to refer you back to the ministerial instructions. Take a look here. Go the most recent ones we want, and I would control F and go foreign work experience. It's going to bring us all the way at the bottom. This is based on foreign work experience and a combination of official language for points. This is how they're going to measure your points, again, depending on your language tests. Then here at the bottom, they're going to talk about here are the conditions. So tier 1, 2, 3, full time, right? One or more employers within the last 10 years. Yeah, super important within the last 10 years, and is paid by wages or commission. So if you're paid by a research stipend, if it's volunteer work, if it's an internship, unpaid, not going to count. Other, we talked about the 5-digit code. We talked about the lead statement. There it is. We talked about the main duties. It's there as well, main duties. So super, super important. But yeah, this is going to be where for express entry. Now we also have the IRPA, right, is going to, or I think the Immigration Refugee Protection Regulations are going to have some more details about. So if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, right, what is general information? This is the law here. And skilled workers, right? So a foreign national is a skilled worker if, and then it goes into more details about eligibility for foreign work experience. So this is written like laws, right? So a lot of legalese, a lot of, subsections and, take a look at this and take a look at that. But yeah, this is like the authority for the minister. And this is like the law, right? For the points. IRCC has like other more, little graphs and better structured stuff, but it's all derived from, it all comes from the like the IRPA, the Immigration Refugee Protection Regulations, the ministerial instructions. That's where the source of the it comes from. Yeah, book a consult. Yeah, but no, I mean, I do telework abroad. I'm available usually around this time, and yeah, I'd love to speak to you more about try to guide you in the right direction based on that. And yeah, to book a consult, you get over to our website, very top right, speak with a lawyer. Quite a bit of experience myself with express entry and helping applicants. You'll see my colleague Alicia, Chanel, and then myself here at the bottom. And then you go ahead and book a consult, and we have Mark as well at the bottom. All right. So Oz, I think you're going to be my second last question here. As he said, you're currently being considered by the system as CEC, but system seems to be incorrect. Started working in Canada from March 28, 2022. Yeah, so interesting. We have more questions, but express entry profile only allows you to input year and month, not day. Since today is 2023 February, this considers me to be CEC. I noticed the increase in score 501 to 541. Should I go ahead and apply if I get invited CEC before March this year? So under your 501, you met the FSW, right? Not the CEC. So sometimes you do have these small glitches, or there's also glitches earlier in the year regarding not tier codes, eligibility, and whatnot. If you meet the minimum cutoff and you meet the program eligibility for FSW, so the biggest difference is going to be proof of funds and 1 year continuous full-time work experience, then yes, you could apply to express entry. It may make sense, but you would definitely have a letter of explanation saying, hey, by the way, I'm not CEC, I'm FSW, right? And there's actual operational instructions. Can we find them? Might not be able to find them. I think it's a really cool question that talks about I wrote a blog about it. It talks about how they're going to process your application. So the program delivery instructions, these are instructions that IRCC puts on their website that officers apply. And here they're going to talk about, this was updated, I'm pretty sure. Was it? Yeah, so they've updated this recently. But here we go. So evaluating, this is for PNP applications. And I don't want to quote you the wrong aspect, but what you're going to want is in your express entry application on your profile, you're going to want to see FSW met. And what's going to happen is in your letter of explanation, you're going to explain what happened. You're going to tell the visa officer, listen, I don't meet the eligibility for CEC, right? I don't want any points for CEC. I'm not claiming any Canadian foreign work experience, any Canadian work experience, right? But I am eligible for FSW and my CRS points are 501 and this is above the cutoff, right? So it's not a, let's say, pretty situation. Ideally, you would just get the invite and you won't have to go through these hoops. It comes with some risk, right? But I think that, we don't want to apply to a program we know we don't apply for. If you have one of these little glitches, just make sure that you do explain that you're applying under FSW, you have your proof of funds, you meet the eligibility criteria, and your cutoff score is above the minimum cutoff. So that's what I would do. Easier said than done. Book a consult if you want to talk more about it. But yeah, letter of explanation, that's what I would explain. Obviously, your situation may be a little bit different. You might not meet the eligibility for FSW, and now you meet the eligibility, now you get the ITA, and you don't want to do that, right? You need to meet the eligibility for FSW if we're going to be applying under FSW. And yeah, the day and month issue, I would, we need the 1,560 hours over 52 weeks. If you have 48 weeks, 47 weeks, well, guess what? You don't meet the 52 weeks. You might get the ITA. I guarantee you will get rejected. They're not afraid to reject applications. All right, Gerald, this is unfortunately going to be my last question. But again, guys, next Thursday I'm off. Thursday after that, join me for the next live Q&A. All right, Gerald says, started my job as assistant manager at Storage Mart. Okay, can you tell me in which knock code does that fall into? Is this retail and wholesale as manager? Gerald, if you just like go back to our video on this live Q&A, maybe 20 minutes ago, I really go in detail about how to assess a knock code. I don't know what you do. I really don't know what you do, right? Like specifically, do you manage people? Are you doing sales and invoicing? Do you call yourself a manager, but you don't actually manage? You manage a program. You don't actually manage people. It's really hard to give you a knock code just based on this. Go back 20 minutes. I spent like 5-10 minutes going in detail about assessing knock codes, but it really comes down to your specific situation. All right, that was really general. So we'll go on to the next one. So, hi Cedric, have an ITA, received nomination for F from Ontario under French speaking. My nomination Ontario under French speaking. My IELTS has expired before I receive nomination. Can I submit my PR? I already scheduled. Yeah, I know you're gonna have to submit a new IELTS, man. It's unfortunate, but it's unfortunate, but you don't want to wait 6 months or a year, right, for processing just to get rejected. They're going to see it right away that your IELTS is rejected. Is expired. You have to put your date for the IELTS in your application, and it's going to be a 5-minute rejection, right? Another 5-minute rejection are black and white police clearance, rejected. Black and white passport, rejected, right? Imagine you're a visa officer. You have thousands of applications to process. You're going to want to take the easiest way to a decision, whether it's accepted or rejected. You're going to want to take the easiest way to a decision, right? You start working on the file, you're going, and boom, the system flags that IELTS is already expired. Well, guess what? You're going to reject it, generate letter, send, close the file, shortest express entry application. And there's no what if I took the test, I got the results, the date, the this and that. Like, they're very strict. People have already had tons of applications rejected, and it sucks. Like, you've probably worked so hard to get to this point. A lot of people get students or work experience, moved to Canada, spent thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on education, and then you reject an ITA. Your nomination has an expiry, so obviously make sure that you keep that in mind. Sometimes they extend nominations, sometimes they don't, right? But anyways, assuming your nomination is still going to be valid, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you need a language test. It has to be within 2 years, right? So, but listen, we'll leave it at that. But no, get a new IELTS test, get in there, resubmit the application, make sure you don't miss a deadline. And yeah, it's super, super tough. But the other scenario is you wait 6 months to 12 months. You spent whatever thousands on the processing fees. And then now your EC also expires. Now you have to redo it, right? Now you might not be, you might get older, your score might drop, right? Redo your tests, and obviously your French test as well needs to be valid. As well. All right, guys. Actually, my last question here. I do have to go. I do have a few things that I need to do. People I got to meet with. Another IELTS question. Yeah, I mean, listen, I know the IELTS costs money. It's a couple $100. It's no secret. But, if you have all your other supporting documents ready, your police clearance, right? How quick can you get your medical exam done? What about your proof of funds? Have you already contacted your bank to set up an appointment, right? How long is it going to take you to submit your profile? Can you get the ITA, finish personal history section, review it, get your supporting documents in order, get that reference letter with the main duty lead statement, right? The specifics and the completeness check, and then submit it before May 17th? Maybe. Do you want to find yourself on May 10th realizing you can't do it and having to wait another 3 months to redo the IELTS test, right? So this is more of like a personal question, right? I mean, legally, yeah, you can, as long as it's valid from the last 2 years, you can apply, right? So there we go. Lima, my pleasure. I hope it's helpful, everyone. There's a lot of other immigration consultants doing this. I think we're some of the only lawyers doing these live Q&As where we provide legal information. So I always welcome these nice comments, guys. I really do appreciate it. Wow, it's just pouring in. We do this for free, right? And at the same time, we do talk about how we can help you prepare your application. So don't hesitate, right? If you have like a small question, or if you'd like us to review your whole application, you can go ahead here to speak with a lawyer, and you can go here at the bottom and book a consult with me. And I just kind of got the same look going on. I might change the picture, who knows? But yeah, you can also click on the picture here, and it's going to bring you back to me. So who am I? Well, I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer, 5 years of experience. I used to work for the Federal Court of Canada as a law clerk, so providing legal advice to judges. I was a member of the Immigration Refugee Board. I work for the United Nations as well. And I was called to the Bar of Ontario in 2018, civil law, Juris Doctorate and Master. So went to school for about 7 years, been practicing immigration law for about refugee and immigration law for about 5 years. I'm a member of numerous of the Law Society of Ontario, Canadian Bar Association and whatnot. Évidemment, avec un nom comme Cédric Marin, je suis un francophone, donc je vais m'exprimer en français et préparer votre demande pour immigrer au Canada en tant que francophone. Et je vous encourage pour les francophones d'aller sur notre site web. J'écris un blog qui explique comment immigrer au Canada en tant que francophone, donc comment obtenir un permis de travail avec une offre d'emploi pour les individus qui seront dispensés de l'étude d'impact sur le marché et pour ceux et celles qui veulent ensuite obtenir la résidence permanente. Donc, venir au Canada pour travailler pour 1 année ou 2, obtenir des points supplémentaires pour votre profil Entrée Express et ensuite venir au Canada en tant que résident permanent. C'est une stratégie valable que le gouvernement du Canada veut promouvoir. Donc, il fait en sorte que c'est plus facile pour vous en tant que francophone pour immigrer au Canada. Et n'oubliez pas que la résidence permanente vous permet d'habiter au Canada avec de manière permanente. Donc, les frais de scolarité vont coûter moins cher, l'accès à l'éducation pour vos enfants, ou même l'assurance médicale pour vous et votre famille. Donc, il y a plusieurs avantages en tant que Canadien pour les permis de travail, pour la résidence permanente, pour immigrer au Canada. So, just saying in French and saying, if you're a francophone, it's easier to get a work permit, easier for express entry. I am a francophone, so I can do these live Q&As in French and English, and also meet with you in French and English. There we go, guys. Thank you for joining me. Alicia and Mark are doing another live Q&A in a few hours, so keep an eye on our YouTube page. I'm away next week on Thursday and Friday. I'm available for consults before and after. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Thanks, guys.